God is telling me it's a great day. My wife made me breakfast. I look outside, sun is shining. I think, what a beautiful day. So I thank God for letting me be here. I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank my family for their sacrifices. My wife back there, my kids. Without them, I couldn't do this. Well, I start by saying Walnut's a good place. We're a good place. In 2011, Walnut was ranked about 60s, 70s in 3,200 cities under population 50,000 to be one of the greatest. Every year we climb that ladder. Last year, 2015, we're number 49. So that means we're doing something right. We're doing something for our community. We're still the safest city in the state of California. We're one of the best places to live. I don't think too many cities can claim that. We claim that. I started as a volunteer in school. I've contributed, I've donated my money. I have not raised any fund in 4 years since I got here. I always use my resources. I've donated to schools. I didn't make a big deal because it's from my heart. I contribute in church. I didn't make a big deal because that's what God tells me to do. He puts me here. I will continue to do what He wants me to do. What I believe is right to do. I will stand very firm on that belief. I will not be swayed by any influences. I will do what's right. And I have not appointed any commission member in the city hall. Not one of my friends benefited from my position. I have not abused any privileges. So I think for that, I would ask you to support me once again. I have some unfinished business. 4 years ago, I looked at my campaign literatures. I accomplished probably 80 or 90% what I promised. Red light cameras gone. We have reserved more than 150%. Things like that. I don't think too many people can claim credit. I was there. I was part of that. So hopefully I have your support once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Andrew Rodriguez is next.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for taking the time to join us this evening. Thank you, Mr. Lewis, for moderating, and thank you to the United Walnut Taxpayers and Chinese American Association of Walnut for putting this event together. Every election is not only about the present, it is also just importantly about the future. It is an opportunity for all of us to have a say in the direction of our community. The reality is that the status quo is always the reality is that change is always part of the status quo, but we have the ability to determine the type of change we think will be most beneficial to our community. Our city is at a pivotal crossroads. We must decide the new type of development we want to have within our community. We need to address new public safety issues, and we need to hold our ground with Mount SAC, but also work with them to ensure that the city and the college interests are being met. The answer to these issues can only come from a willingness to engage in a respectful dialogue. And this starts with our city council and moves on from there. And where there is disagreement, we must find a way to bridge our differences in order to provide the best possible outcome for our community. I am a lifelong resident of Walnut. I grew up on Stoddard Wells Road in Timberline. I played Shetland baseball in Creekside Park, and I graduated from Walnut High School. Go Mustangs! I acknowledge that I am young, and that my generation may see the world a little bit differently than those who have preceded us. But I also realize that many of you have an abundance of knowledge and wisdom gained through your life experience. And my goal is to listen earnestly and respect all parties in order to perform my duties in the most proficient manner. So, I hope by the end of this evening that I can prove to you all my willingness to serve the city proactively and with the utmost passion. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Don Cristobal is next.
It is my honor to be here with you as part of this forum. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Bella Cristobal, a 30-year resident of the city of Walnut. I retired from the Los Angeles County after 30 years of service. I worked as a finance analyst and a supervisor of internal controls, cash, and banking. I also had the budget and finance of the Department of Health Services in one of its small departments. I graduated with a degree of Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, major in management from Ateneo de Cagayan Xavier University, the school founded by Jesuit missionaries. I am married for 44 years to my husband. He's in the crowd with 2 children. I served Walnut as a volunteer. My first volunteer work for the city was in the year 2000 with the Walnut Family Festival. I'm currently a commissioner of the Parks and Recreation, also a member of the Walnut Historical Preservation Committee, Neighborhood Watch Block Captain, American Cancer Society Walnut Relay, poll worker as an inspector, also a volunteer since 1990 for St. Lorenzo Ruiz Parish Community, and prior to that, the St. Martha Church. Safety is everyone's concern, so my #1 goal is to improve safety by using volunteer patrols, identifying areas in the city not participating in the Neighborhood Watch program and get them involved, and assign crossing guards on busy streets and intersections, especially those near the schools. To improve the business area in Amar and Nogales is one of my goals, by encouraging it to become a gathering area for residents, art display, band performances, and also would attract young adults. Preserve our beautiful parks where everyone will enjoy the facilities for athletic events and family gatherings. We'll work to build the aquatic park and for our pets, a dog park. Maintain a balanced budget. I will bring my knowledge in to achieve a goal that benefit the community in areas of reserves, funding, expense control, and revenue increase. I will be the voice, mover, servant of those I serve in the city I lived and loved this 30 years. Walnut, I thank you all.
Thank you. In looking through your cards, a lot of you have asked questions about what are these candidates going to do about big, bad Mount SAC? And I think I'll just throw it out to Dino first. You've got the school wanting to construct a parking structure and solar panels, and a lot of people say, not in my backyard. So what are you going to do about it?
I've served on the city's Mount SAC task force, so I've been involved with some of these issues. Currently, Mount SAC has not quite cooperated with the city and has gone its own course. We want to bring them back to the negotiating table. Our priority should be to the residents of Walnut and their home values. Mount SAC cannot act in a way such that with their construction, they will reduce home values without any input from the city. We need to have Mount SAC negotiate with us and also be mindful of the city, of the residents and their property values.
Okay. How about Bennett? What's your take on the Mount SAC situation, and what are you going to do about it?
Yes, my position, I support our residents, and we have to protect our residents. The other construction have to be follow the zone, follow the code, and to follow the rule. Thank you.
Okay. Eric, what about your feelings about the Mount SAC situation? What are we going to do?
My position cannot be more clear. For my vote, my first vote until today is very consistent. The way I look at it is Mount SAC has to be a good neighbor. We're in the same city together. So their growth has to benefit us. We have to work together, not just on the continuous growth. So my vote is always, when they have good development, I will support it, like the parking meter, things like that. But when they have other developments, such as solar farm, 10 acres, can you imagine on the hillside, they will have trucks every day there for 8 hours, filling up dirt to build those. I think that's a little bit crazy. So I think we need to talk to them in real sense, have them look at it to see if that will benefit us. Think about everyday trucks, hundreds of trucks a day. That's too much. So I'm staying very firm with them, and I'll continue to work on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Andrew Rodriguez, you said earlier we've got to work with Mount SAC. What kind of compromises do you foresee making with them?
Well, I'll begin with the parking structure. I believe that the current parking structure site is a safety hazard. 2,300 spaces so close to the Timberline neighborhood with only one major thoroughfare coming in and out of the neighborhood. I don't like that. In the event of a major disaster, I don't think it would be beneficial for both the residents and the students to have a parking deck that size at that location. My compromise would be to move the parking structure to the north side of Temple, north of the football stadium. It works for several reasons. One, it's close to the football stadium. Two, there is already a pedestrian bridge connecting the main campus and the site. And three, it is close to the future home of the Mount Sac Transportation Hub, where buses will be coming in and out on a frequent basis. And the site is lower than the current site, which means Mount Sac could technically build a bigger deck, and it still wouldn't obstruct the views of the Timberline residents. So this is just one of the compromises that I would do. But again, we have to have a dialogue here. We can't just go in and demand. We have to compromise, we have to work with each other, but we also have to stand our ground.
All right. Bella, one of the cards says Mount Sac is really not the enemy. They're one of the largest employers in our city. They offer many opportunities for our citizens. How will you help both sides meet in the middle?
That's very true. Mount Sac, we love Mount Sac. A lot of us, our children, our relatives have gone to school there. They got their education. And they have been the big part of our city. However, when the projects that they have is infringing into the rights of the residents and also would hamper the city, the traffic, the environment, and things like that. That's where the citizens would come in. That's where we support whatever it is that would affect the environment, the life of all the residents of Walnut. But it doesn't mean that we don't want to support the education that they are offering the city. We just need, as Andrew had mentioned, we just need to dialogue with them to get a common ground, to get a meeting of the minds, so that we will be able to resolve the issues that we have at hand.
Okay. Nancy, one of the questioners asked about your vote on the Mount Sac building and parking structure. The questioner says, when the Walnut residents started our fight against Mount Sac, your vote was to support the building. You were the only vote to support Mount Sac against the Walnut residents. We're interested in trying to understand your quick changing from supporting Mount Sac to opposing them now.
Well, I'm not sure who wrote that question, but they don't have their facts correct. First of all, I've grown up here in Walnut. I grew up at Upper College, right above Mount Sac. So I've seen a lot of changes in this community. I've taken courses out of Mount Sac. I worked with different presidents at Mount Sac since being on the council for 8 years. So Mount Sac's been one of our biggest employers, and it's been a good neighbor for years. And we need to work with Mount Sac. I do not like litigation. I'm a litigator by profession, and I know who wins in litigation. It's the attorneys. I think you always need to try to work your differences out and try to solve, but I think you need to be involved and open, and Mount Sac needs to be informing the city on what is going on in the residents. And I don't think there was a lot of communication going on there. The city also has zoning laws, and Mount Sac needs to be in compliance with our zoning laws on that. I never voted against Mount Sac or for Mount Sac, so I'm not sure what they were discussing about. There was an issue to go into litigation, which we did go into litigation on. So I'm not sure where the person got that information, but we are in litigation at this time, and we do have a majority of the council here, but I always think it's best to look out for all the residents. And in any situation, I listen to all the residents' concerns, and I do my own homework and my own research and my own legal research, and I try to do what's in the best interest for the whole community based on the facts, the citizens' comments, and the law. And that's what I've done in the past, and that's what I'll continue to do, because I think that's my responsibility. But I always think it's best to try to work things out and work together. But I will always enforce our city zoning laws. Thank you.
Okay. Betty, a number of questioners have asked about your political efforts directed toward the Chinese community. One asks, as a taxpayer of Walnut, what would be a way you would include all taxpayers in your efforts? Are you going to be able to represent everybody in this community?
Yes. My position as a holding tax line and protect our residents and provide the quality life environmental for our residents and to build the future for our next generation. Thank you.
Okay. Eric, a number of questioners have asked us about transparency in the City Council, possible violations of the Brown Act, which prohibits members of governing bodies from engaging in business behind closed doors. What's going on there, and do the taxpayers have a real reason to be concerned about transparency at City Hall?